It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Wednesday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story, we're talking all about this primetime address. Why? Just why? Why are we subjected to more garbage? President Trump today spoke at 8 o'clock, primetime, from the White House. Everybody was anticipating a declaration of war with Venezuela. Clearly, that was leaked intentionally as misdirection. And we all tuned in and we watched the speech, and there was no declaration of war. There is no war. Instead, we got more crap, more trash, 20 minutes of nonsense, poorly delivered, rambling, stuttering. He can't even read. And we'll talk about it tonight. I'm sure you watched it. Instead of getting a declaration of war against Venezuela, we got 20 minutes of self-promotion. Defensive speech talking about how Trump really is doing a great job and the economy's not so bad and things are going to get better eventually. I don't even think there was actually an announcement other than that the military is getting a Christmas bonus. Okay. And that was really about it. So we'll talk tonight all about this address. I thought it was a total flop, such a joke, just like everything else in this administration. I don't know how anybody defends it. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk tonight about Dan Bongino, the deputy FBI director who today announced his resignation. It just gets better and better. And Dan Bongino was apparently forced out because of his contentious relationship with the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. At least that's what they're saying. It's also relevant that tomorrow the Epstein files are officially going to be released as ordered by the U.S. Congress. Maybe it's got something to do with that. Who knows? But we'll talk about that too. Your golden age, everybody. It's so golden that you need a primetime address. Well, I'll do you one better. We are living in such good times. It is such a golden age that you have to literally trick the media into paying attention to you to defend how golden it really is. That's how awesome. That's how bored we are with winning. You have to trick the media and the public into giving a damn and watching your little speech to defend your record with nothing other than political rhetoric. That's how good it is. We need to be reminded. We need to be told. And nobody would even care. We have to be tricked into being told how great it really is. Wow. Loving it. So we'll talk about that tonight. Should be a pretty good show. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Check out our merch store, Fuentes.store. We have our America First hats. We have a number of brand new t-shirt designs, which I'll show you. We have them on hangers now. We have this one, I Am America. That one's backwards. America First. We got the Wang Half shirt. I'm not going to show you all of them, but you can check it out. Fuentes.store. And I think it's a little late to be getting them for Christmas, but if you want a late Christmas present, these make for a really great late belated Christmas present. Should have gotten them earlier. But that's Fuentes.store. Subscribe to the website, americafirst.plus, $15 a month. You get access to the archive of the show, MP3, audio-only files. You also get, with the $100 a month subscription, access to an exclusive group chat with me. I was live in the group chat reacting to the speech that we all saw, chopping it up with the in the live chat, in the group chat. And that's at americafirst.plus. With that, we're going to dive in. I got to tell you, this might be the last show this week because I am very sick. I don't know if you could hear it in my voice, but my throat is so sore. My whole body hurts. I wasn't even going to do a show. I didn't even feel like it. I didn't even feel like getting out of bed. But I said, f it. I'll do a show, fine. Because we've been having good viewership and there's this big stupid speech tonight. So I said, f it all the shit. I'll do a damn show tonight, fine. I'll do a show. I don't even feel like it, but fine. I'll do a show. Not that anyone cares. I'll do a show. So I don't feel good, and I'm doing a show because I'm not sure if I'm gonna be okay tomorrow or Friday. I went to New York. I didn't get invited to a stupid party, but I got sick anyway. I didn't even get invited to the dumb party, but I still got sick. What a load of crap. So I'm here while I'm still well enough to literally physically be able to do the show. Here I am. But I'm not happy about it, but I'm here. Not that anyone even cares. Not that anyone has even bothered to pay attention. I'm here doing the show, and it's fine. And here's the other thing. So I'm just kidding, but here's the other thing. I was going to do a show. I was so excited. We're going to talk about, all right, war in Venezuela. All right, finally something cool. Finally something interesting. No. Rug pulled again. Fell for it again. Serves you right. You trusted a Jew. Dad, Donald Trump is a Jew, and I'm depressed now. So this is what you get. Got what you voted for, they say. Got what we voted for, said Andrew Torba. Got what we voted for, said Andrew Isker. Loaded BS. Anyway, so I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow and Friday because I'm really sick and miserable about it. But I'm here now. And so we're going to soldier on. I'm a trooper. I'm a real soldier. I'm going to soldier on and do the show anyway, even though I really don't feel like it. I also did Alex Jones this afternoon. If you missed my appearance, we're going to upload it on the Rumble channel, and it'll be on the archive website, americafirst.plus. I already did 2 hours today anyway. I did 2 hours with Alex Jones. We got to catch up a little bit. Always great talking to the GOAT, Alex Jones. And we talked a little bit about everything. We talked about the Vanity Fair piece with Susie Wiles. We talked about Venezuela, the speech, talked about the Trump administration, and so you can hear it already. And as always, he's a little more optimistic about things maybe than I am. He's always asking me, how can we turn this around? How can Trump get it back in gear? And I got to tell him, it's over. It's totally over. It's happening exactly how I predicted it would. Remember, nobody believed me. Nobody cared. Nobody listened. Everybody was whipped up. Everybody wanted to work on the campaign. Everybody wanted to get in the admin. Everybody wanted to be a part of it because they know nothing. They know nothing. And they don't care. They don't care about what we're doing here. And last year, this is what I said, because we need a little reality check, okay? It's almost Christmas, so it's time to air out the grievances and put everyone on blast. I said last year, Trump is going to win, and then he is going to sell us down the tubes to Silicon Valley, to the Israel lobby, and Wall Street. I said, here's what we're going to get. We're going to get tax cuts for Wall Street. We're going to get investment for AI. We're going to get a war with Iran. Israel's going to get the West Bank. We're not getting mass deportations. I said, that just ain't going to happen. And it's not going to happen because inflation is persistently high. Inflation will be persistently high because we are in stagflation territory. You cannot deport your cheap labor source working in hospitality, working in agriculture, working elsewhere when you already have inflation and plan to implement across-the-board tariffs. It's not going to work. And I said that last year, and nobody was listening. Nobody cared, but that is exactly what has happened. That's one. Two, I told you, even during the transition, I said, we are not going to have as much time as you think. I said, what will happen in this lame duck presidency is that Trump is going to have a year, maybe a year and a half to make things happen. He's going to have a year and a half when it is still hot off the presses, still fresh off his victory in the actual election. He's going to have a year and a half relatively unopposed to actually get stuff done. I said, but then immediately in 2026, they're going to start campaigning for the midterms. And they're going to be so distracted and they're going to try to moderate that they will not be able to achieve anything. And then we're going to lose the House anyway. We're going to lose the House because we only won it by 4 votes in the actual election year. Running as an unpopular incumbent, you're almost certainly going to lose. And once you lose that, it's not going to get better with Democrats controlling the House. Very quickly, we proceed into 2027, where J.D. Vance is going to be running for president. Because other Republicans may announce, and there's going to be a primary contest, and then half of the Republican Party will be focused on 28. Then you'll be in 28, and it's another election all over again. And what did we hear from Susie Wiles last week, the chief of staff? She said, I am going to have Trump campaigning in 26 like we had him campaigning in 24. That means she's going to run him ragged. He's going to be crisscrossing the country, doing events, doing rallies. He's going to be taxing himself enormously, and he only has so much energy. He's falling asleep in cabinet meetings as it is. He's an 80-year-old man. They're going to have him so wound up doing these rallies, trying to keep our majority in the House, which is in vain, that all of the career politicians are going to be able to get everything past the goalie at the White House. As it always happens, while Trump is on a military campaign, figuratively, while Trump is away from the Capitol, away from the palace, all of these senators, all of the party apparatchiks, that's how they're going to slide in. While Trump is asleep, while Trump is busy, while Trump is in Minnesota or wherever campaigning, that's where they're going to slide their agenda in, and it's going to get actually worse. Just as I said it would. So I don't believe actually that things are so optimistic with the Trump administration. We have to stop lying to ourselves about all of it. You don't need to pick a side. You don't need to be white-pilled or black-pilled. You need to be clear-pilled. You need to be realistic. You need to stop lying to yourself. You need to stop negotiating with yourself on behalf of a party that doesn't care about you. And that involves taking a cold, hard look at where we're at. And where we're at is that the war in Ukraine rages on. The war in the Middle East is about to get started again. Mass deportations have not happened. And we know that because ICE has not released any deportation numbers since Joe Biden was president because they're so embarrassingly low. H-1B visas hit their cap this year. Over 120,000 of them. We're actually doubling the number of Chinese students. The economy is not doing well, actually. It's barely chugging along. Job market's frozen. It's not going the way they said it would go. And here tonight is the perfect example. It's kind of a good segue. This is why tonight we're a year in. We had the White House, the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court. We had a lot of federal judges. We have governors. We have state legislatures. Republicans have power. We are firmly in power. We're a year in after we won the popular vote in a landslide electoral college victory, and we have to go out on TV and defend the record because it is that bad and it is that unpopular. And so we're going to get into it. We're going to talk first about this primetime address from Donald Trump tonight. We'll set it up. Yesterday, it was announced that Trump would be addressing the nation primetime from the White House tonight. And as of last night, nobody had any clue what the speech would be about. This morning, there was a rumor going around that the speech would be a declaration of war against Venezuela. And this was timed, I think coincidentally, with a war powers resolution voted on in the House of Representatives, which would constrain Trump's ability to declare war. So people said the timing of these two things would suggest that Trump is going to war. Tucker Carlson made an appearance on Judge Andrew Napolitano's show this morning, and he said he was told by a member of Congress that the White House briefed Congress that we were going to war with Venezuela. It would be announced tonight. This was verified by antiwar.com. It was verified by other sources. And everybody tuned in tonight at 8 o'clock Central to see our declaration of war. It didn't happen. Instead, we got a 20-minute speech, 20 minutes exactly, where the president defended his record on the economy and announced a couple of bizarre new initiatives. This is a story about it from the New York Times. It says, quote, President Trump delivered an 18-minute primetime speech to the nation Wednesday evening, arguing that the economy under his leadership is in better shape than Americans believe. It's so good that, you have to tell everybody how good it is. Nobody knows the economy's good. You have to remind them, hey, I know you feel broke, but you're not. I know you feel like you've gotten poorer. You're wrong. You're better off. You feel good. You feel prosperous now. I think the numbers on Black Friday were something like 90% of people used Klarna, used buy now, pay later to finance their Black Friday purchases. But yeah, no, everything's totally fine. 50-year mortgages, buy now, pay later is super popular. Job market is frozen. They didn't even publish the numbers in October. No, but it's great. It's great. Trust the plan, idiot. It's actually fine. Gas is 50 cents a gallon. Just trust me. The article goes on. It says, wielding charts and figures, some of them misleading, Mr. Trump tried to make the case that the economy is improving, or at least that the bad parts of it are not his fault. The speech resembled comments Mr. Trump often makes while speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, full of self-praise of his own job performance while disparaging his predecessor, President Joe Biden. But he had a wider audience than usual, with networks interrupting their regularly scheduled programming to carry the remarks. In a surprising moment, Mr. Trump announced what he called a warrior dividend. Cool name, cool stuff. In which checks of $1,776 will be sent to 1.4 million members of the military. The president said the money would come from tariffs that he has levied on goods imported into the country. Just remember when he said that the tariffs would pay down the debt? So that was a lie. Then he said the tariffs were going to create a dividend for everybody. And that was a lie too. So now the tariffs are going to pay for a dividend for the troops. Okay, well, what about the rest of us? What about the rest of us that aren't fighting for Israel or whatever? It's a warrior dividend. Great. So the tariffs destroyed the stock market. The tariffs have slowed down the economy. Good news is the troops are going to get a paycheck. Well, there's no one more deserving, right? The article goes on. It says, Mr. Trump promised the economy would improve in the next year and that his policies would cause prices on electricity and everything else to fall dramatically. He said mortgage payments will be coming down even further early in the new year. And he said he would announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history next year. Okay, hopefully so. A recent New York Times analysis of Mr. Trump's approval ratings found a decline in support for Mr. Trump's handling of the economy from July to November. After he was finished speaking, he turned to the press and said, "You think that's easy?" And then took a swig of Diet Coke. He then suggested to those in the room that his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, had told him that he had to deliver the speech. He asked how he had done. Miss Wiles replied, "I told you 20 minutes and you were 20 minutes on the dot." So it's very clear that this was all another trick. This is all just part of the bag of tricks. And I'll tell you what happened. Trump tricked the media and the public into watching this garbage. His approval ratings are in the toilet. His favorability is in the toilet. People's opinion of his job approval, specifically on the economy and immigration, is in the toilet. It's all bad. Trump is unpopular with his own base because of the exit of Marjorie Greene, the handling of the Epstein files, the post about Rob Reiner, the lack of conclusion to the war in Ukraine, lack of mass deportations, lack of law and order from National Guard in the cities. People are not happy with the Trump administration. He's not delivering. All he is doing is talking. Rather than deliver one or any of the promises that he made, he is simply talking them up, trying to convince us that they are certainly happening. So he went and traveled and did a rally last week where he gave basically this exact same speech. And you might not know that that happened, and probably you didn't see it. He went out to a rally last week and gave a big stump speech. He's a lame duck president giving a stump speech, giving a campaign rally, talking about how everything is actually fine. Nobody carried it. Nobody picked it up. Nobody paid any attention. So this is where they hatched this idea. How are we going to get the public to listen to our defense of our catastrophic administration? We will trick them. We will actually just lie to them. So the Trump administration put out through back channels this rumor that Trump was going to war with Venezuela. He put that rumor out, maybe through Congress, maybe through Tucker Carlson, through others, and he tricked us. The mainstream media thought that Trump was going to declare war on Venezuela tonight, so they carried it on the networks. The American public thought a declaration of war was being made tonight, so people tuned in. And then it was a classic bait and switch. Instead of declaring war on Venezuela, he gave an 18-minute stump speech defending his record and announcing that next year, everything's just going to get better. And this is why everyone hates Trump now. This is why everyone hates Trump. Everyone hates this administration because it is a scam. It's not even a failure. It's not even an honest failure. It is a scam. We are not getting anything that we have been promised. Think about it. We were promised industrial policy, tariffs, subsidies. They backed down in 1 week. Remember Liberation Day, April 2nd, we're going to liberate ourselves from free trade. We're going to have tariffs on every country. They caved in 1 week and then said, oh, the whole time it was really just about China. Remember that? Another fake out. They said, we're declaring tariffs on every country in the world. And then when the bond market melted down, they said, never mind. It was really just a big trick. And what we always intended to do was to only have tariffs on China and nobody else. Trump always chickens out. Then he said, we're going to deploy the National Guard to Chicago and LA and Memphis and every major city, and we're going to bring law and order to the streets. Then they said, oh, actually, we can't do that. And if we deploy 200 National Guard, that's what we meant. And we're only doing it for 60 days. And it never happened. Trump always chickens out. He said mass deportations. We're going to get all these people back. We're going to deport everybody, the violent criminals first, and then everybody else. 300,000 deportations for the year. He always chickens out. Every single thing is a catastrophe. And instead of just being honest about the state of things, instead of actually just recommitting to doing these things that were promised, we get excuses. They just lie. And Trump gets up in a primetime address like he did every week in the first term and said, actually, everything's really going great. And it's like we just live in two different worlds now. We live in two different worlds with MAGA supporters, with Trump supporters. In the minds of Trump supporters, 3 million people have been deported, and Trump has ended 8 wars, and inflation is actually down. And that is what they believe. Even though the war in Ukraine is going on, they will confidently tell you, but Trump ended 8 wars. And what they're referring to is the war between Thailand and Cambodia, not making that up. The war between Rwanda and Congo, not making that up. The skirmish between India and Pakistan. In reality, where we live, the Ukraine war, the actual war, that's still going on. The peace in Gaza, that's falling apart and will probably restart anytime soon. But Trump supporters will say, no, but he ended 8 different wars. How much do you want him to do? It's like, I think we elected him to end the war in Ukraine, not the one in Cambodia, actually. Not the border skirmish in Cambodia, You say, where are the mass deportations? They don't even report the figures. The best estimates say it's 300,000, maybe 500,000 at most. In Trump world, they take a community survey that polled 65,000 households, and they extrapolate that to mean that 3 million people left the country because they were afraid of Trump. Trump deployed National Guard to Washington, D.C. They said, so actually he made good on the promise of restoring law and order. And he comes onto the primetime address and insults our intelligence, defending this record with nonsense. Defensive with these cutesy little rhetorical phrases. We didn't need legislation to close the border. We just needed a new president. Yeah, that was cute like the first 300 times we heard it. Now it's just a joke. So this characterizes everything about the Trump years. The whole thing is a bait and switch. The whole thing is just a never-ending advertisement. We're always fighting. Victory, prosperity is always just around the corner. Even tonight, he announces a check for the veterans. Okay, honestly, big deal. The tariffs are not bringing in that much money. They're not solving the debt problem at all. They're not bringing back manufacturing. But Trump instead just lies and says, well, actually, we're bringing in so much money, we're going to get rid of income taxes and we're going to pay people money. Well, what happened to Doge cutting the deficit by $2 trillion? What happened to that? What happened to tariffs actually making money from every country? Then he says, well, we're going to cut a check to everybody. Oh, we don't have enough money for that. Now it's a check for the veterans. Now it's a check for the soldiers, and we'll call it a warrior dividend. Warrior. More of this cultural language. The only thing that was substantive in the speech, he talked about an ambitious housing plan next year. Okay, why? It's like you hear that and you go, he does a primetime address to announce that he'll have a housing plan later. Then why announce it now? He comes on 8 o'clock, prime time, tricks everybody into watching. Okay, you've got everybody's attention. You've got a captive audience. What do you have to say? How are we going to turn this around? What's the plan? Well, I am going to change housing. It is the most ambitious, wide-reaching housing reform in American history, and it's almost done. I'm announcing it next year. Okay, so did you plan on becoming president? I understand if you were surprised that you won the first time, but this is the third time you ran for president. And you should have a pretty good idea of what you want to do when you get in. There's no housing plan. It's not finished yet. Did you not know you needed one during the presidential transition before the election? And why are we announcing it now then? Hey, I have an announcement, everybody. I'm working on a plan for housing. Get ready because it's all going to get better. Okay, but when? And what is it? And what are the details? When are we actually going to see prosperity? And how are they going to get that through the Congress in 2026 when Democrats are having to appease and pander to their base? How's that even going to work? Trump has passed 5 bills this entire year. Every other president, it's like over 100. He's passed 5. He doesn't even have a plan yet, but now next year there's going to be a far-reaching housing plan. We're now going to take affordability later. And the speech isn't even good. On top of all this, so first of all, you lie to get us to watch. You lie to our faces that things are going great. You don't even have a plan. Clearly, he knows there's a problem. He knows it's not going well. He knows he needs a reset. He doesn't even have a plan. There's not even an idea. Oh, we'll cut a check to the veterans and the rest to be announced later. There's not even a plan. Insulting us with lies about the state of the economy. And then to add insult to injury, it's not even a good speech. He sounds retarded. If you actually watch the speech, he can't even read. He's reading from a teleprompter, and you could see him stumbling maybe a half dozen times in an 18-minute speech. The confidence isn't there anymore. The swagger isn't there. Stuttering, stumbling, weird little riffs, weird little verbal tics, detours he keeps going on. And you say, so the magic is gone too. The substance is gone. The style is gone. He's not delivering. It's not even the same message. And he's not even funny. And now it's not even entertainment. And I see these assholes on Twitter. They say Trump just trolled the media into carrying his primetime address from the White House. Ha ha, the joke is on them. No, the joke is on us. The joke is on us that Trump has tricked us, saber-rattling, starting another new war. We tune in. It's insult after insult, lies, and it's not even entertaining on top of it. Who got trolled here exactly, other than anybody that still supports this person, other than anybody that still believes in any capacity that this administration can get something done? So I watched the address. It's just another ridiculous show. And I'm ready to be done with the Trump show. And unlike Tucker, I'm not going to do a 180 and say, oh, I don't know what I said. You know, what I meant was. No, this Trump show it's just got to end. I don't know. And I would say he should step down, but then J.D. Vance is going to become the president. But what do you even do with this at this point? Everything I said has come to pass. Worse even than I imagined. Because I told you in 2024 it would be like this. I told you this is exactly how it would go. And it was pretty obvious why. Trump had sold out to the donors on everything, on labor, on immigration, on foreign policy. His cabinet was hand-selected by Susie Wiles, a lobbyist from Florida, and she brought in all the Florida swamp creatures. She handpicked this bullshit cabinet. It should have been absolutely predictable, but somehow it's even worse. I told you a year ago, it's going to be corporate tax cuts, war for Israel. The war in Ukraine is not going to end. No mass deportations. It's going to be more permanent bureaucrats running out the clock. They're not going to move with the urgency, the swiftness that they need to. And in the end, all it's going to do is bring the left down harder upon us. Let's say the Democrats win in 2028, which if they appoint an actually viable candidate, we're in trouble. We kind of got lucky in 2024, wouldn't you say? We got lucky that Joe Biden is demented. We got lucky that his successor, Kamala Harris, was somehow more unpopular than him. Joe Biden was barely alive. Kamala Harris had never won a single contest, a caucus, a primary, has never won any kind of contest in a national election. Add to that Trump had the full weight of the Israel lobby and little tech, and he got shot in the ear and had the iconic moment that changed the course of history. So we kind of got lucky in 2028, just like we got lucky in 2016. If the Democrats put up a halfway decent candidate in 2028 that doesn't alienate white people, that isn't super woke and isn't super cringe, we're going to get absolutely destroyed. And you know what's going to happen when they win? They're not going to fuck around like we are. They're not going to hire Rachel Maddow to run the FBI. They're not going to appoint a bunch of idiots to run the cabinet. They're going to hire the best judges, the best lawyers, the best law enforcement, and they are going to literally kill us. They are literally going to take away all of our civil liberties. They're going to throw us in jail. Because you see that Trump is barking up the wrong tree here. He is weaponizing the DOJ against James Comey, Barack Obama, Letitia James, Jackson, whatever. The way that Trump is going after his enemies, the way that he is inciting them and basically just antagonizing the radical left. He is inviting a brutal retaliation. So if we don't get lucky in 2028, they're almost certainly getting back in power. They will wield executive power. They'll have the House, maybe not the Senate. And unlike Republicans, they're not going to screw around. They're going to come to get us. So people say, well, why don't you just trust the plan? Why don't you just be patient? Well, we're trying our best. Trump needs to be acting like a literal dictator. You either need to be a dictator or you need to make peace with the left. But you can't do this thing in the middle where you pretend to be a dictator, but you're not one. Because like I said, all that is doing is inviting a retaliation, and Trump might be fine. If he pardons himself preemptively, he'll be okay. It's us that's going to pay the price. It's Elon that'll pay the price. It's everybody that helped Trump ever. They're going to pay the price from a new Democrat administration. They're going to help all their allies. They're going to punish all their enemies. because we didn't do that when we had the power. So this is very frustrating. It's very hard to watch because this is just a squandered opportunity. You actually had the ability to achieve a golden age if Trump was halfway serious, but people just didn't want to see the flaws. People were so caught up in the hype, so whipped up in the moment. All these stupid political cocksuckers, they were being paid under the table by super PACs, the party itself, whatever, paid as consultants, paid as nonprofits. All these political idiots were basically paid, or they didn't care. They looked the other way. They gassed everybody up. They were all in on Trump. Nobody pointed out the flaws. And now we're stuck with this nonsense for 4 years, and then we're all going to die. And I'm not trying to be melodramatic about that, but we have been absolutely screwed. And the reason I keep saying I told you so is because this reflects a feature in the Republican Party. I said all of this last year, and I made a very rational case. I made the arguments, and on some level, everybody kind of knew this. But the people that influence the conversation on social media don't care. They don't read. They don't know anything. And they don't care about the outcome. They're also being paid, and they didn't disclose that they were being paid. So I had guys like Elijah Schaffer. I'll name some names. I had guys like Elijah Schaffer confronting me at CPAC this year. So I don't get it. Why didn't you support Trump? Well, hey, buddy, do you know now? He tells me, I don't watch your show. I don't have time. Why don't you like Trump? Well, maybe if you watch his show, maybe if you cracked open a book once in a while, maybe if you read something instead of just taking money from India and El Salvador, maybe you'd know why I didn't support Trump. Maybe you wouldn't be finding out a year later like everybody else. And he's just one example. And I like Elijah. I consider him a friend. But I'm calling him out on his irresponsibility, just like I'll call out a lot of people that in the end went for Trump because they wanted to brown nose. They wanted a job in the campaign. They wanted a job in the admin on this sinking ship. They wanted a title. They didn't want to be left out or left behind. They didn't want the FOMO. So they said, I'm going to support Trump. I got to get in on this. I know that it's not exciting. And they lied to themselves. And many of them lied to you. They took money under the table and they lied to you. And they pretended like this administration was going to be great. And honestly, the whole thing is, when I say a scam, I mean, they're looting the government. These cabinet officials, they are corrupt. They're looting the government. What did Trump do when he won? He put out a shit coin and told everybody to buy it on social media, and that is now more than 50% of his net worth. You stupid idiot. Trump got elected, put out a shit coin, all of his followers bought it, and then he sold and made literally billions of dollars. And you don't think that all of his cronies did exactly the same thing? You don't think that all of the insiders, many of them Jewish, at Mar-a-Lago, you don't think they profited from that as well? Of course they did. Talk about an omen. Talk about a red flag. Gee, I wonder if Trump is going to scam us again. I wonder if Trump is going to screw us again. And then he puts out a shit coin, everybody buys it, and he literally rug pulls you and leaves you holding the bag. Like any other celebrity, like any other crypto scammer, and you thought you were going to get your mass deportations? This whole thing needs to be burned to the ground, figuratively. Not literally, but this whole thing needs to be burned to the ground. You're not mad enough. You're not angry enough. You're not pissed off enough. You people are not tired of eating yet. People are still gobbling this stuff up. Ha, ha, ha. Trump trolled them into carrying his address. Ha, ha. Trump said Somalians are garbage. What a laugh. What a riot. You stupid idiot. And what do you think is going to happen? And at the end of these 4 years, Springfield, Ohio is still going to be filled with Haitians, and Minneapolis is still going to be filled with Somalis. I will bet you $10 billion that is the case. Would you take me up on that? Absolutely not, because you know as well as I do, those people aren't going anywhere. They're going to put another Nicky Knack 300 National Guard and ICE and Border Patrol in Minneapolis. They're going to have them doing a bunch of poses for social media video edits, and then they're going to go home. Some stupid liberal's going to put their middle finger in their face. They're going to get trolled on social media, and then they're going to go home. And Trump is going to say mission accomplished, because that's exactly what happened in Chicago. They had this, what do they call it? Operation Midway Blitz. Operation Midway Blitz. What did they call it? Alligator Alcatraz. Hey, Bal. And then what did they deport? 1,000 people? They went to L.A. with the National Guard, and in the end, they deported 1,000 people. You had liberals storm the detention facility, and they found it was empty. Liberals stormed the detention facilities where illegal immigrants are being concentrated, and it was empty. Like, if that doesn't tell you what this administration is. Liberals think there's another Holocaust. They think that ICE is the new Gestapo, Trump is the new Hitler, illegals are the new Jews, and they are literally being whipped up. They think it's another Holocaust. That's why you have snipers blowing people's heads off. That's why you have terrorist attacks being plotted against this country, because they think it's Nazi Germany, and they're not even deporting anybody. The detention facilities are empty. In the end, who is that guy that they deported to El Salvador and the judges made them bring him back? What was that guy's name? Something Garcia. They made the Trump administration bring him back. Hey, listen up, Garcia, Kilmar, Alberto Garcia. You have 100 days until you get deported, and then you have 50 days until you're brought back. All these illegal alien farm workers, you have 200 days to get the fuck out of our country. And then you have a 30-day grace period to lawfully come back in, and we will give you an H-1A visa, and we will set you up in the Four Seasons Hotel, because that's what Brookie wants. That's what Brooke Rollins at Agriculture wants, because she has a better relationship with Trump than Kristi Noem, because that's our idiot cabinet, America First Policy Institute. How many people were complicit in this? All of these people are complicit. They are all going to parties wearing tuxedos where people are not invited. No, but all these people, they're making money. All these people in politics, Trump included, Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski. These people are all making money, effectively, allegedly selling titles, like doing corrupt things that powerful people do. They're all securing their retirement while they loot the country, while they dare the left to kill us. And then when the left comes to power, we're going to be the ones holding the bag. That's why it is a disgrace. It is a disgrace. And everybody that shilled for Trump, like, you can just never trust them again. Anybody that was pro-Trump, I don't care if they were well-intentioned or not, you can just never trust them again. Anybody that said, I told people to vote for Trump, Tucker and Candace included, we had a chance to turn this around. It was during the election. It was you want to call Trump out? Call him out when he needs your damn vote. Trump was saying all this a year ago about H-1B visas, about stapling green cards to diplomas. He was not serious about mass deportations a year ago. He was talking about bombing Iran a year ago. The time to call him out on it was last year, when they needed something from us, when they needed our vote. But all of you people told yourselves, well, we'll figure that out later. Okay, well, it's later. And the speech tonight said, it's coming later. It's always just a year away. Not for Israel, not for the billionaires, not for the oligarchs. For them, they get their tangible benefit today on a silver platter. For all of us voters, we're waiting for next year, always. So that's your primetime address. I don't know how people even find it funny. It's not funny. The whole thing's a big joke. The whole thing is a big, stupid joke. And you understand why Marjorie Taylor Greene quit. Because it's like, and I understand, people like her son is getting death threats. Her family's getting death threats. She's trying to make good on the promises, and she's being attacked by the president, sicking his supporters on her. And you go, okay, so what are we even fighting for then? If the leader is not even pushing the principles of America First, if he's going to endorse Lindsey Graham but attack Marjorie Greene, if he's going to open up the floodgates for the Chinese to fund the universities, and he's attacking me for saying that's not a good idea, then why are we suffering like this? Now, the difference is that Marjorie didn't know what she was really fighting for. In her mind, she thought she was fighting for Trump and MAGA. I never made that mistake. I'm fighting for this movement. I'm fighting for America First. And if Trump will be America first, then we're with Trump. And if he's not, then we're not. And that's why we can't be absolutely beholden to anybody. That's why our loyalty actually comes with a price tag. You want support from the Groypers? You want support from me? You want support from America First? You have to give us something. I don't have a jersey on. I'm not under a contract. I'm not being paid under the table by these people. You want me to shill for Trump and not Gavin Newsom? You want me to shill for Trump and not Kamala? Give me something. Give us something tangible. We have a price, just like Elon Musk has an ask, just like Miriam Adelson has an ask. We have an ask as well. And that's a difference between people that are serious and people that are being strung along and turned out like political whores. Marjorie Greene, making these deals, she thinks she's a genius. She thinks that she's making moves. You're not making moves. You're being used. You are being instrumentalized by them. And you think that's influence. They use you, and you think that's influence. They tell you what to do. They tell you what to support. You have no say in it. You have no independent following, no independent base of support, and you think that's influence. That's a mirage. So that's why we have to absolutely steel ourselves going into 2026 and 2028. You and me have to steel ourselves. We cannot ever allow it to happen again. We can let the Republican Party lose. And they will squeal like pigs. And they will say, you're going to make us lose. You're with the Democrats. Nick Fuentes is an operative. They're going to say all this kind of stuff. Remember how you feel now when they say that. Fuck you. They're going to tell us in 26, just like they did in 24. They're going to say, we got to hold the line. I know it's not all it's cracked up to be. I know we didn't deliver on everything, but hey, it's not all bad. They're going to say that. And in 2026, you need to be ready to say, well, that sounds like a you problem. They're going to tell you Republicans can't afford to lose the House. You're going to have to say, that sounds like a you problem. You should have thought of that when you put together this big, beautiful bill and it was a piece of shit legislation. You should have thought of that when you didn't deport 2 million people in 2 years. You should have thought of that when you brought in those 600,000 Chinese students. Do those people vote? You should have thought of that when you said you need 600,000 Chinese students to pay the universities. Are the universities going to vote? Go ask them for their vote. Go ask the 600,000 Chinese students for their vote. Go ask the Ivy League universities for their vote because you're keeping them in business by doing that. Go ask the illegal immigrant farmers and the illegal immigrants that work in hospitality. Go ask for their vote because you protected their right to live here illegally. That's who you're looking out for. So what are you talking to me for? You're telling me Republicans are going to lose? That sounds like a you problem. Go tell the people you actually defend. Go talk to Elon Musk. Go talk to Sam Altman. Go ask to Ken Griffin. Go talk to BlackRock and Blackstone. You go and talk to them, Larry Fink. And you explain to them that Republicans are going to get devastated in the midterms and how bad it's going to be. Because you had your chance. You had the House. You had the Senate, the White House, the Supreme Court. It was supposed to be a golden age. Remake the federal judiciary or the federal bureaucracy. They said, Section F, we're going to fire 50,000 people. We're going to move fast and break things. We're going to cut the deficit. They didn't do any of it. Where's my National Guard? Where's my tariffs? Where's my austerity? Where's my savings in waste, fraud, and abuse in the deficit? Where's my mass deportations? Where's my America First labor policy? Where the fuck is it? You come back asking for more? You come back asking for another vote in 26, and if I say no, that's my fault? I'm the problem, and they'll do it again in 28. And that's why, a lot of people say the show's a black pill, the show is negative. I need you to feel this. I need you to feel it in your bones. I need you to feel it in your heart. You have been betrayed. This is treachery. You have been betrayed. Things are not going well for you. It is going well for them. They don't even care. They are giddy. They are giddy. They are gleeful. Tucker and Candace told you to vote for Trump. Are they hurting? No. They're making more money than ever. Tucker just bought a new house in Doha. Candace Owens cannot contain her joy. She told you to vote for this nonsense. Trump and all of his cronies made probably billions of dollars off of the Trump Bitcoin. How are you doing? How are you handling the increase in Netflix and Disney Plus subscription costs? How are you handling the increase in prices across the board? 4.5%, 5% interest rate on a mortgage. How are you handling that? Did you use buy now, pay later for Black Friday? Do you feel like we live in a safer, more white country with fewer immigrants than we did a year ago? Absolutely not. So you need to live in this. I'm not one of these people that's cheerful, rah, rah, rah. Hey guys, everything's fine. No, it's not fine and it's not okay. Everything sucks and it's not okay. And things need to change now. And they need to understand that if things don't change now, then we are ready to join them. We will hold their hand and we will walk into oblivion together. We will walk you down that road. They say it's going to be your fault. It's your fault. We have been promised things for 10 years, and it's always just around the corner, just another election. We just need a couple more seats. I got off the hamster wheel. I stopped playing that a long time ago. I endorse no one yet. You give me something, you fight for me, you promise me something. If you're some new guy, okay, now we'll talk. All these other people, you lost. So that's why I'm trying to really drill this home for you. Like, all it is marketing. All it is constant, ceaseless marketing. Email lists, subscriptions, watch the primetime thing. Hey, guys, sloganeering. From Susie Wild, hey, everything's actually fine. Really? For who? For Elon Musk, who's now worth $600 billion? For who? Bitcoin's at 85,000. No gains. Anyway, so that's that. We're going to move on. We'll talk a little bit about Dan Bongino, but that's my rant about this whole Trump administration. How do we translate this into action? That's always the question. People always want to know, how do we change it? And I'll tell you how we change it. We have to get organized, okay? Separately, we are weak. Together, we are strong. This is just a basic principle. People say that's fascism. That's just true. And what we need is an American lobby. The Trump administration fears the Israel lobby. They don't want to upset the Israelis. Why? Because the Israelis have independent power. Ben Shapiro will not vote for Trump if he doesn't think Trump is pro-Israel. Think about that. Think about this for a moment. Why is the Republican Party afraid of offending Israel and Jews? Because Israel and Jews have power. But what does that mean? It means they have money. Money that buys television ads, newspaper ads, radio ads. It means they have position. They have positions of influence that they can use to influence the course of the election. And it's not just that they have power, but they're willing to use it for their own interests. So if Trump says, I don't support Israel, let's say he keeps every single one of his policies, but he doesn't support Israel. Do you think Ben Shapiro's voting for him? Honest question. Let's say Trump keeps every single one of his policies, but he doesn't support Israel. Is Ben Shapiro voting for Trump, yes or no? We all know the answer is no. And he's going to tell his audience not to vote for Trump. As a matter of fact, he's going to encourage his audience not to vote for Trump. There's a lesson in this. Take your own side. Take inventory of what you have. We have our vote. We have some money. We have some position. Use it in defense of your interests. And if somebody is not doing something for you, do not take their side. Do not support them. They are not entitled to it. They do not own it. They are not owed it. That is the difference. That is why black people are getting reparations in kind every year. That is why Jewish people are getting their end taken care of for Israel. That is why Indians and Chinese are getting their end taken care of, because they speak up for themselves. They use their resources for their own benefit. It is us stupid white people, stupid Christians that say, well, we got to hold the line. Well, we got to be team players. Well, we got to vote Republican. You got to get up and say, you know what? If there is no immigration moratorium, I'm not voting for Trump. I don't care how unpopular it is. I don't care how difficult it is. If he doesn't commit to an immigration moratorium, then we will not vote. Listen to them squeal, but you're not being a real Republican, but we can never do that, but that's impractical, but that'll never. You figure it out. You're running for office. You're running for Congress. You're running for president. You figure it out. We're the voters. 90% of the people that voted for Trump in 2016 were white, and they're all being robbed of their birthright. They're all being dispossessed. They're all being forced into minority status. A country where foreigners and the foreign-born and invaders outnumber us and dominate culturally, politically, socially. And Trump has been complicit in it. We have interests as a people. Let's start fighting for them. So we have to group up and we have to make it known and get the word out. These are our demands. They are simple. There is a short list of them. We do not want a war in Iran. We do not want a single net immigrant coming into the country. You work out the details. Otherwise, we're staying home and you can take your chances. You figure out the math on that. You figure out how to sell it to the American people. That's your job. But people weren't ready to do that last year. I hope that after this experience, you're ready to do it next year. I hope you're ready to do that in 2028 because that is what is required. We have to use our power. And let them sweat, let them panic because these political people have made a lot of money. They have made a lot of money and they live a pretty nice lifestyle, private jets and fancy hotels and fancy receptions and rubbing shoulders with the rich and famous and patronage, like things you couldn't believe, lobbyist money like you couldn't believe. Let them work for it. What do we have to lose? At this point, people say, well, if a Democrat gets in, they're going to throw open the border, brother. It's baked in. What do you think? A few million more immigrants is going to change anything? Honest to God, we're going extinct as a species. If there's not an immigration moratorium, you can cut it 10%, you can cut it 50%. It's time to get serious. Anyway, that's that. But I do want to move on. I want to get into Dan Bongino. You know what? We'll probably just take the super chats. I'm not feeling my best. We'll just say this is a short show. And because I did an Alex Jones thing today. So I did 2 hours this afternoon. I did an hour show tonight. A little bit of a shorter show. But I'm trying to conserve my energy, okay? All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at the super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say. We just hit 50,000 live viewers. Let's go. 50,000 live viewers at 11:30 at night on a Wednesday. That's the generational run. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what you guys, I promise I'll be here. If I'm here at all, I'll be here earlier tonight. It's just so hard to get it going on time for me. All right, let's see.
Man, overpromise, underdeliver. Very similar to some of the energy that we discussed maybe a couple days ago with Candace Owens. And not to make it about Candace, nothing to do with that. But sometimes when people have such a high anticipation or a high level of investment, and when people don't feel like they get a return on that investment, they feel taken advantage of. So let's not make it about Candace. Let's just stick directly to Trump. Donald Trump, his entire existence. And we've had a lot of these conversations. So allow me to just go on my monologue for a bit, and then I'll get to the notes and respond directly to what Nick said. But overall, and I think this does directly connect, overall, I think a lot of the issues that we're seeing with Donald Trump is we just don't trust him anymore. We just don't trust him. And it's to the point where, like, now that we've done 2 live shows, we live streamed it yesterday, did a live stream earlier, and we were discussing the speech. And a lot of people were upset. They were saying that, he lied, he did this, he did that. And I was like, well, what exactly did he lie about? And to me, it wasn't about whether or not he lied, because I said that I had to check a lot of these stats where he's saying that oil, gas is down or this is up, and the tariffs, he explained some stuff. We could fact check that later on. But overall, I think the main problem is the perception of people, or perception of Donald Trump by a lot of people. And he caused that perception. He caused that perception. For a lot of people, Donald Trump, we saw him as the non-political politician. People saw him as the last person that people can put their faith in when it comes to, or put their vote in when it comes to a politician that's going to stand out there and not be the puppet that is controlled by whatever figures at the top, or whoever's putting money in your pocket, I should say, the Miriam Adelsons of the world, those type of people. A lot of people thought that Donald Trump, or I should say, set such high expectations based on what he was campaigning on. People became fans of Donald Trump. People became fans of Donald Trump because they liked Donald Trump, and maybe there's some other reasons, or in large part due to the fact that a lot of people just couldn't stand what the Democrats and liberals were doing. And I have to be honest, I fall into that category as well, where I missed a lot of the things that Nick discussed. Nick, I wasn't even aware of Nick Fuentes at the time. I wish I would have been, because I would have listened to what he was saying and done my own due diligence and research, and perhaps he could have covered some of my blind spots. Like I always talk about, our biases create blind spots for us, and everything that's important to me may not be a priority for somebody else, and so on and so forth. So therefore, with a lot of the things that I saw the country moving in a direction where everything is just, moving in believe all women, toxic masculinity, like it was just moving us from a leadership standpoint into an area that I was not comfortable with, into an area where we thought that it was okay because we want to, I don't even know how this even ends up supporting women, and how the people who are allegedly the feminists and fighting for women's empowerment end up on a side where now you got to support boys playing sports against girls and men playing sports against women. I didn't know even how that could coexist, but seeing what Gavin Newsom, and think about it from this standpoint. Nick mentioned that a Democrat can have an easier course, let's say, to victory based on the lack of leadership that Donald Trump's showing. And what is JD Vance going to run on Donald Trump's record? People aren't happy with Donald Trump. So sticking to what Nick said, as far as like a Democratic, who are the leading Democrats? Gavin Newsom and Jasmine Crockett. And Gavin Newsom, I think, is above everybody else. That is a realistic fear. Gavin Newsom is a governor who didn't obligate or didn't make it a responsibility for teachers to tell parents that their kids are transitioning in school, that they don't have to report that to them. That is those cultural issues, those were the biggest concerns for me. And I voiced this plenty of times beforehand. However, those big issues to me definitely created some blind spots in other areas where I didn't even look at the things that Nick was looking at. Now, I also wasn't looking at Donald Trump early on because I was an RFK guy. But if I'm going to give anybody my vote, I can't just say, oh, I wasn't looking at him early on, so I didn't see it. No, I got to hold myself responsible for that. I got to hold myself responsible for that, because if I don't, then that blind spot is going to play a role in another area of my life, or another area, let's say, even if it's directly related to politics. It's going to create a blind spot in the future, and I don't want that. The goal is to have clarity. The goal is to listen to what everybody's saying and figure out how I can leverage my vote. Like Nick said, let's figure out where do our cards lie? What cards are we holding? Let's figure out how we can leverage that to our best ability in order to have whoever's in office push for an agenda that aligns with the things that we want delivered. And that's not what happened. That's not what has happened. So Donald Trump, when he gives this speech, people can't help but be reminded, especially, and it's even more so with Donald Trump, because it was such a vicious election cycle where you lost friends and family damn near voting for Donald Trump or supporting Donald Trump. So therefore, what did that cause? Now you got to stand on it, right? So now you're fighting for Donald Trump. You're giving all the reasons why you vote for Donald Trump. The toxic environment created a lot of this. Not to say that we didn't create it. We fed into the toxic environment. We created the toxic environment by thinking that, oh, this group versus that group, looking at it from that mindset as they divide and conquer. Like, we fell into that trap. But given that we fell into that trap, now people who supported Donald Trump, we looking dumb as hell. And I'm glad that I was one of these people that jumped out early and just, honestly speaking, just said, hey, I don't like the direction of this. I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable with this. Been saying this for months when it comes to Donald Trump. Didn't wait. This was shown early on. So I'm glad that I didn't feel the need to justify my vote and see everything through a lens that justifies my vote rather than just seeing things for what they are. And when you see things for what they are, You're looking at this, you're looking at his speech that he gave when he's amping all this stuff up, and you start to question yourself like, damn, he over here saying America's the hot spot, talking like America's the hottest spot in the city. Like, meanwhile, the people that are in America, we looking like, bro, that's not it for us. One of Donald Trump's best traits was that he had this sense of relatability that a lot of other wealthy politicians or billionaire business people did not have. He related to people that were not even close to his tax bracket. But when he goes up there and says things like that, the lack of connection or the lack of relatability, in my opinion, shows not only that he's out of touch, but he's being disingenuous, because there's no way that Donald Trump, if you're thinking about how the average American feels, that you would go up and make that type of speech. There's no way that Donald Trump even felt comfortable with it. Him rambling on through a speech, trying to get through it as fast as possible, that's what it gave. It gave that type of energy where you're sitting in speech class and you know the kid that doesn't feel comfortable doing their speech in front of class, they go up there and just try to read through it fast as they can. And they're always making like an awkward movement, not standing confidently. How did this turn into Donald Trump? Donald Trump is best, bro. Throw them speeches out, bro. Honestly, if you're going to read a speech like that, there was no need to even work with the teleprompter. Do what you do best, if that's what you still do best. And just speak from the heart, bro. Speak from the heart. Maybe have an index card with a couple of different topics that you want to cover and then just speak on them. That may be asking for a lot in his position, but when you look at what he actually said, you could have just spoke from the heart and, tried to keep it safe, I guess. I don't even know what safe is. Just acknowledge the shortcomings that you've had, acknowledge where you're wrong, and move forward from there. But you starting off your speech, I think he opened the speech with, I inherited a bad situation. It's like, bro. Nobody wants to hear that from a leader. Nobody wants to hear the head coach talking after the season, after we got a losing season, or halfway into the season or a quarter into the season when we're 0-4. And the coach is sitting up there saying, yeah, well, we inherited, a bad team. You think that coach is going to be there long if they go to the owner? Yeah, you knew exactly what you inherited. And you said that you can get all these things done regardless of what you inherited. That's why people voted for you. You didn't have that humble energy when it came to you making all these promises and deliverables that you can bring forth into action. You didn't have that hesitant energy then. Now you start blaming, oh, I inherited bad situation. I'm blaming Biden. Bro, let Biden live, bro. Let Biden live. On one hand, Biden wasn't the president. And, he was just the shadow president. The next hand, you're blaming him for everything. And I get that you're blaming his administration, not specifically him, but nobody wants to hear that, bro. We know what you inherited. Matter of fact, if you're gonna say that, at least be slick when you're delivering the message. Say something like, look, I don't want to make it like, one thing that I can't stand, and a lot of people have presented it to me, is that I don't like politicians that play the blame game. They get into office and they say they can do all these things, but then when they actually get in the position of power to do them, they make excuses blaming people in the past. I knew what I inherited. And I set aggressive goals because I felt that that's what we could deliver on. Now, I still feel like we can deliver on those things, but we got to make some adjustments because clearly there's a reason why we have not delivered on these things. And I have to take full responsibility and accountability for those things. Here's some of the errors that we made. And, we're still figuring out some plan of actions. But one thing that we're going to do is we're going to be flexible moving forward and constantly evaluate if we're moving in the right direction and make sure that we keep an ear to the street to make sure that y'all are aligned, or not necessarily, it doesn't have to be aligned, but you guys at least understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. But I just want to be, if you would have just led with something like that, then people will understand what you're saying, which is like, all right, let's remind ourselves he did inherit like a bad this, bad that, and he took some responsibility and accountability, which is different. For you, Donald Trump, it would have worked so well because it would have shocked people. It almost would have shocked people into like not being able to criticize you in a lot of ways, because it would have just been like, wait, Donald Trump admitted that he messed up. He accepted all responsibility. Because think about it, Trump, people rocking with you was always based on your likability, whether people liked you. And a lot of that likability came from the trust aspect. The fact that, well, I don't need to like my politicians. I just, know that Trump's going to just do what he says he's going to do. He's not going to care. He's not going to be swayed by this group or that group. No, Donald Trump is a politician. And I remember halfway through this speech stopping and just saying that, like, oh, shoot, this is a politician talking. And I knew that I was listening to a politician talking because halfway through the speech, I listened to everything and watched everything that he was saying. And then I put my head up and said, I have no idea what he's been saying. Like, I had no idea. I was looking at my notes. I'm like, I don't even, because, you know, I try to take notes and whatnot, either pen and pad or on here. And I didn't even have anything written down. It was like just a couple words that I couldn't even recall, like why I even wrote down the words in the first place. So with Donald Trump not having that lack of trust, he's removed the likability. And the trust comes in him saying certain things, whether it's the Epstein files, whether it's him not being bullied by Israel, and Israel's the main thing. Let's be honest. And I was having this conversation earlier, because that one situation is what represents the worst threat to America, and definitely the worst threat to Donald Trump's base, is our country being controlled by a foreign country. Our country being controlled by a foreign country. That's what makes Americans, no matter what Donald Trump delivers on, feel like he's selling us out. He could have delivered on all that other stuff. But when it comes to what's right in front of our face, when we see that these people that you put in office, you turned your back on the people that seem to be standing on the things that you were standing on, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, you know, you're turning your back on them. Why are you going at Thomas Massey? Why don't you have that same energy and going at some of these neocons who clowned you, like Stephen Miller? These people said all these things that to Donald Trump would be unacceptable moving forward, right? His big ego when it comes to other people. But for these people, he's like, oh, you know, I made an excuse. As a matter of fact, now they're the tightest members of my cabinet, while everybody else who was rocking with me, who was standing firm, supporting me from beginning to end, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, oh, she's a traitor. The people, the market is determining that Donald Trump's product is no longer a product that Americans believe in. Donald Trump has to be aware of this. He senses what's going on. Even if he has as many yes people in the room as possible, he still knows that deep down you can hear it in their voice. Donald Trump has had to gauge people and demonstrate soft skills and emotional intelligence his entire life when it comes to business. He knows when somebody's giving him BS. And even if he doesn't know, it still falls on you, because those are the people that you put in place. And clearly, if they don't feel comfortable telling you where you're wrong or giving you some real energy because you're going to be upset, then you hired the wrong people. And that goes on you as well. So, you know, this whole Venezuela thing, let me get to my notes. The whole Venezuela thing, I actually didn't even look at it how Nick looked at it. I was fooled, perhaps. And I was fooled because right after it, I was saying like, oh, at least I'm glad that we didn't go to war. I was thinking that he was going to declare that, hey, we're at war. And Nick pointed out, and it's like, oh, I was fooled. Like that was a play. I didn't realize that was a play. People may or may not see it as a play, but it's like, oh, let's leak this information like we're going to war. So that way, when I don't announce that we're going to war, people will do exactly what I did. And at the end say, well, at least, you know, one thing that I was happy about is us not going to war. Bro, you don't get extra points for the things that you said you would deliver a minute ago. We already voted for you because you said that. Now it's time for you to actually deliver it. You have to actually deliver it now. We're not clapping for you to almost deliver it. No, there's no participation trophies or whatever. You have to deliver it. Or acknowledge that you didn't at the very least, and acknowledge maybe that your strategy didn't work and you're trying another strategy. But you got to be real with people. You got to be real with people. So that was one thing that I did not catch. And one thing that Nick talk about, fear mongering. And I don't think this was Nick's intention. But when he says that if the Democrats bring forth a candidate that's simply not super woke, they'll win. That's a scary sight. And this is why I say Donald Trump, who had it, you had this Trump, like we threw you the alley-oop, like you had this right in the palm of your hands. You had the potentially what could have been the greatest presidency. You had the easiest path to people saying that you're one of the GOATs. Literally all you had to do was, okay, the tariffs. Democrats and Republicans are going to have a lot to say about that, but that's something that Democrats and Republicans have been agreeing on for a very long time. So even though you may not get the short-term impact shown through the economy, you can acknowledge that years down the line, this would be the transformational president that got done what Nancy Pelosi's been talking about for 30 years, what Bernie Sanders been talking about for 20 years, and putting tariffs on people to incentivize outside manufacturers to come into America, hire American workers and fuel the American economy, and us have a lot more exports than falling in love with just being a buyer and importing everything and strengthening our opposition in a lot of ways, right? Our competition, strengthening their economy more than we strengthen ours at the detriment of developing ours. We shut ours down to go support theirs. We shut our businesses down so we can go support their factories. We shut our factories down. So that was an easy win, bro. An easy win. Like, yeah, people may not have gotten on board, but that's like something simple. Then you go on to putting a stop at the border. Simple. And he probably did that. I don't think there's as many immigrants coming in. I don't think that was a very difficult thing to do. So at least he got that one done, I guess. You know, he could have done that. Then simply just not getting bullied by Israel. You know, like us sending a fighter jet to bomb Iran's nuclear facility. No, bro. Simple thing. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. We know that that was just all about you paying back the debts that you owe and you getting bullied and manipulated or just bullied by Israel and Jewish oligarchs like Miriam Matelson. Next thing that you had to do. Simple. Hey, Trump, in a world where half the politicians are scared to acknowledge what a woman is, you can just, this is what a woman is. This is what a man is. Moving forward, men will never play sports against women and girls will never play sports against boys. Simple. Hey, why are these sexual books in the library? You know, for a lot of these students to read and learn about boys pleasing other boys sexually. Let's remove that. Hey, let's put a pause on the drag queens reading books to kids. You know, let's reevaluate that one. Let's make it a law, or let's push for something to where now teachers are obligated to tell the parents if there's children, the teachers, students are transitioning to a different gender. Simple. Let's stop allowing so many people to come in to boost the Silicon Valley businesses, but at the detriment of us Americans bringing in people to compete with us as Americans, that we're not only going to bring in our competitors, but we're actually going to be responsible for covering their food, making sure they got shelter, and making sure they got education and clothing and whatnot. No, we're not doing that. Trump can't, it doesn't matter if we don't have, Trump may think that America doesn't have the talent and that's why we got to bring in all these people. So what? Put that on Silicon Valley. I'm sure the people there, they got talent. If they got talent, then they can use their talent to teach other people to learn tools and skills, right? That could have been the next like trade type of thing. Like we're getting back to now where trades are important, right? That's just another trade. Teach people the skills. Teach people, oh, you're telling me that Americans can build? Yes, Americans can build anything that everybody else can build. You just got to have a structured way of teaching them. Just like Americans now we've been taught to see the world through Israel can do no harm in that region, and that the people with the machine guns, those are the good guys. Meanwhile, the people in rubble and throwing rocks, those are the bad guys. Yeah, just how they taught us that, and we all see pretty consistently across the board on that until we step down and do our own research. Yeah, you can teach people how to learn a tool and skill. Simple. Like these were simple wins that Trump could have delivered on, but he decided to move in a different direction. He decided to move it. This was given to him on a silver platter. If these were the top issues of the day that any other president had to deal with, it would be pretty simple, and where the American people were. Like, bro, we were behind you, Democrats and Republicans. Nobody wants to be getting bullied by Israel and Bibi Netanyahu. You had people behind you. But he chose to move in a different direction. And like Nick said, it may not hurt Trump, but it's going to hurt a lot of the people that were loyal to Trump. Whether it's this election cycle or the next election cycle, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Unless JD Vance can figure out a way to win and, I don't know, rebrand the party. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. That was funny when Nick was talking about the liberals storming the ICE detention centers and then going in there and then being nobody there. Like, that's a funny one. But Nick also pointed out this Trump coin. He said that Trump coin that Trump put out in his team, that now makes up half of his wealth. If that's true or anything close to that, if it's a quarter of his wealth, if it's a percentage of his wealth, like, damn. damn, I'm looking into the window, but I'm really just I'm looking for my soul. Like, I need to speak to my soul and figure out how I missed this, how I got misled. I need to figure that out. I'm not a Trump fanatic. I'm not a fan of people. I'm a fan of principles, morals, values, all these different things. So how did I end up here? That's what I need to question myself. So I'll do so. And I'll welcome any comments that y'all give as well. But Nick then he moved on to say that he now understands why Marjorie Taylor Greene quit. Now, maybe Nick's just feeling bad about some previous things that he said in the past about her, or feeling bad maybe about going overboard. I can't even recall, a situation where he did go overboard when it came to his criticism of Marjorie Taylor Greene. He was standing on the fact that he doesn't believe that women should be in politics, and he gave some good reasoning based on Marjorie Taylor Greene quitting. But my question for Marjorie Taylor Greene is, if supporting Trump was worth the death threats, because I'm sure she got a lot of threats in supporting Trump, or if she didn't, maybe that's something she should speak out about. But the way that a lot of the conservatives speak on the Democrats and liberals, it seems like they're the ones that are making all these death threats, right? So if that's the case, if supporting Donald Trump was enough for you to stay in your job and receive the death threats, now that Donald Trump turned his back on you, doesn't it kind of make it even more important now to stand up for your people, but was it about standing up for Donald Trump, or was it standing up for principles, morals, and values? Because it seems like the principles, morals, and values are more important than you. That's why you've broken away from Donald Trump recently, when the things that he's doing, the things that he's supporting don't align with your principles, morals, and values. So if that's the case, should you just walk away? Should you quit before the end of your term? Should you finish out your term, then quit? All these questions come to mind, because it seems like, based on what Marjorie Taylor Greene is going through, that we need Marjorie Taylor Greene more so than ever. But, I get Nick giving some empathy, perhaps some sympathy. But yeah, I didn't really have much more to say on that than what I said. But it was just an interesting comment. I just observed it. I'm not sure if y'all peeped it as well, but those are pretty much my thoughts. But overall, I guess the main takeaway is what Nick finished off and saying, like, take your own side. Take your own side. And I'll actually go a bit further than what he said. We got to remind ourselves that if we're going into a negotiation, which politics is, any power dynamic situation is a negotiation, leverage. If we're going into the negotiation and we're not willing to walk away, then more often than not, we're putting ourselves in a position to lose out on that negotiation. So maybe that's just something that all of us should think about, especially as we're going into the midterms, going into the next presidential election, because it'll be here before we know it. They'll start the cycles, about a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, maybe sooner, I guess sooner. So just a little reminder, we got to take our own side. And let me be very clear. By taking our own side, I don't mean taking the side of the Republicans or taking the side of Democrats. I mean being led by principles, morals, and values. And whoever's aligned with those principles, morals, and values, and can demonstrate that that's what they stand on, and those are the policies that they've pushed out while they're in office, and that they're already doing it and not just making promises to us, those are the people that we're going to take seriously. And I think that's the standard that needs to be set for the rest of these politicians, because people, just like in relationships, these politicians, they're going to do what we allow them to get away with. So when they get away with something and we continue to stay in the relationship, continue to support, what does that say? Is that something bad on them, or is that bad on us? We're just justifying the behavior. So just some food for thought. On that note, I'll wrap it up. Won't keep you guys any longer than I need to. Nick kept the show short, so I'll keep my comments short as well. And as always, appreciate y'all liking and subscribing. Make sure you turn your notifications on. Obviously, that's going to help boost the algorithm. We want to make sure that we're controlling the algorithm, and the algorithm is never controlling us. And let me know where more of my blind spots may have factored into me not seeing things clearly, because I always tell y'all, and I said it earlier, my biases have created blind spots for me that I assume your biases and maybe have created some for you as well. And that's why we have a team. That's why we have a community. That's why we have people around us that feel comfortable giving us honest feedback. And we are mature in receiving that constructive criticism and feedback to make sure that for the next time, we can figure it out and not have to make a mistake and learn from our mistake. We can just use the lessons that we previously learned to keep moving in a positive direction and to keep leveling up rather than staying in the same place or even going back. But I'm already rambling. Let me end it here. Appreciate y'all, man. Really appreciate y'all. And we got the Black Guy in the Corner channel. So y'all make sure y'all subscribe to that as well. And in the meantime, I'll see y'all soon.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family.
And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM fought that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that.
I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.